First responders of Reddit, what is the stupidest reason someone called emergency services and what happened? Well, I once sprayed myself in the eyes with bear spray as a kid and wound up calling the fire department. My initial perception was that you put bear spray on yourself, not the bear. It was an incredibly rude awakening. The fire department got a good laugh about it, while I vigorously poured water into my eyes as I continued to cry. Makes for a good story now though. This is at least better than the idiots who spray it around the perimeters of their campsites thinking it will repel bears, which actually may attract bears. Because diluted it as a new and exciting scent for them to investigate. Don't live in a country with bears. Know nothing about bears. This is good information to learn, as I'd probably be one of the idiots who would think that this was a good idea. Spray the bears with the bear spray. It tastes like pepper spray on cocaine. Got a call for chest pains. Patient gave a really generic story. Got to the hospital, and when the triage nurse asked what was wrong, I start telling her about the patient's pain. The patient cut me off to explain she wasn't having chest pain. She just wanted a ride to the hospital because she liked the socks she got in the emergency room last time she was there and would like another pair. What the hell? The best part about the psych ward was the socks. But goddamn, I would not want to bother an ambulance just for another pair. They really are the best socks. So comfy. A kid called 911 because he wanted us to come arrest his brother for not sharing the Legos from the Lego bin. You see, they were supposed to share, but his brother wasn't sharing. The caller's mom even told his brother to share, but alas, the brother declined. The bin had enough Legos for both of them, but the caller's brother said that he was playing with all of the Legos. This wasn't reasonable to our caller. There were too many Legos for one person to play with at the same time. Therefore, our caller's brother was a liar, a turd, and he definitely wasn't sharing, and mom said he had to share, so we needed to come arrest him. While hilarious, we wanted to do a quick check to make sure there wasn't something else going on. We had a high degree of confidence that this wasn't a coded request for help, so we asked to speak to an adult. After confirming that there was no actual emergency, we ended the call and recommended no action. Share your Legos. Kids, I hear prison isn't kind to child molesters, woman beaters, and kids that don't share their Legos. Oh, you like to play with Legos, do ya? Well, here's some for you to play with. Why don't you try playing hopscotch? Whomsoever doth refuse the sharing of Legos shall forever be damned to tread barefoot upon them. My cousin was learning about emergency numbers. She stole my nana's phone, ran to my nana's room, gathered my siblings, and called 911. Of course someone answered, and she flipped out. She immediately hung up without saying something. The operator calls back but nobody answers. 10 minutes later, the police arrive. They said that they got a phone call from this location. My cousin immediately starts wailing in the background. My nana calls for one of my siblings who tells her that it was my cousin who called because she wanted to see if anyone would answer. My nana apologizes and the police start laughing, saying that it happens all the time. Called because she wanted to see if anyone would answer. It's almost like they're treating 911 as an urban legend or something on the same level as Bloody Mary or something like that. Did you know that if you just dial 3 numbers, the phone connects straight to the police station, no matter where you are in the country? I can kinda see how a kid would be incredulous hearing this from another kid. Don't call this number or else the fabled mystery of Officer John Smith will come and haunt you. My buddy became a cop a few years ago, and he got his first call ever. It was to a guy's house. The man was in his 20s and was pissed that someone was sending him dick pics on Facebook. My friend's first call was to show a guy how to block people on Facebook. Man should call tech support instead. Elderly lady calls and reports that out of her 200 ducks, 3 were just stolen. Arrived to see an enormous massive ever moving ducks and elderly lady says, see there's 3 missing. Just count them. Needless to say, you could count to about 10 ducks at most before you lost track of the ducks that were either counted or uncounted. That lady needed to get her ducks in a row. I think she needs to call one of them duck cleaning services. They keep calling me, but I only have geese. That reminds me of a funny story. Me and my family went out to dinner once. Outside, they had a pond with geese in it. My mom asked, I wonder what they do with the geese in the winter. To this day we never found out what they do with the geese. Former nurse here. My absolute worst was a lady who called 911, claiming she couldn't breathe. She had a pimple on the inside of her nose and it hurt to breathe through her nose. I rubbed some citrusine on her pimple, gave her a bus pass, which she refused, demanded a cab voucher, accused me of calling her poor, then called an Uber. Super strange encounter. To be fair, those nose pimples are a bitch. I think ear pimples are worse. I had one once, and I don't think eyelines ever forget the squeak when it popped. Not in first responder, but my previous phone had a virus and would randomly call emergency services twice a night while I was using it. Few times I couldn't disconnect in time and would awkwardly tell the responder it was a mistake. I still feel bad for wasting their time. They probably appreciated you staying on the line to explain it better than leaving them scrambling to try to figure out if they need to divert resources to finding out if you dropped the call because you were in danger. If you drop the call, they will call you back. I've accidentally called 911 and when I hung up, they called me back to see if everything was okay. Local lady made the news for calling emergency services because her snowman was stolen. Let me guess. The thief left a puddle in its place. Obligatory, not a first responder, but the dumb caller climbed up into the hayloft of my barn, and while I was moving bales around I accidentally jammed the door to the ladder closed. I didn't have any tools with me to wedge it open, and I couldn't pry it up with my fingers. But I had my cell phone with me. I always bring my cell to the barn. None of my neighbors answered their phones. So, yeah. 911, I am stuck in my barn. Can you send someone to climb up the ladder and open the door? The worst part. I work in the hospital. I knew every single person, and they sent 2 cop cars and a fire engine for some bizarre reason that showed up at my house. To this day, I've yet to live it down. They send the fire truck because it has more toys than the average police car to break into a barn. And they wanted more witnesses. You know they were wanting to mess with op. I am sure they don't get a lot of chances to laugh. This is perfect joke material. Had a lady say that she had syncopial episodes when she was stressed from dealing with her boyfriend and kids, or in her words, unexplainable fainting. She was also unable to explain how she had the fortune of bracing herself from facial trauma when her arms would brace her from falling as the rest of her body went limp. When we transferred her from gurney to standing, her vital signs were normal, and we got to witness her whole body go limp except for those muscles that would stop her from crashing on her face. Aside from that, we get a lot of patients explaining almost verbatim the signs and symptoms, as if they had just read it off of WebMD, but without showing anything. The patients listing symptoms from WebMD are probably genuinely frightened. It is terrible to be a hypochondriac. I used to be a hypochondriac, but I never thought to call an ambulance because the stuff I worried about wouldn't kill you immediately. But I worried incessantly. I didn't go to the doctor because I didn't want whatever I was worried about confirmed. A recent worry I had is that sudden onset chest pain, a heart attack, a panic attack, or just some tendons acting up after about an hour of lying on the floor in pain. I am pretty sure it was a panic attack. Knowing my luck, I'd be having a so-called silent heart attack and probably be thinking indigestion or anxiety. Not a first responder, but I worked with them as a security guard at a casino. We had to kick out 3 people in the middle of the night for bothering other players, asking for money, etc. They expected us to drive them home because their ride left hours beforehand. We told them no, as that's something we do for our VIPs only. They decided to call an ambulance, and one of them told the EMT their back was hurting. The EMTs loaded up the person and the other 2 tried to hop in the ambulance with them, expecting a free ride back home. They were not very bright people. I think not very bright seems like an understatement. I am an EMT student, and on one of my field clinicals I transported a man who was concerned because his farts smelled worse than usual. Because of COVID we have to wear respirators and I could still smell it through that. It actually was bad. I seriously contemplated dropping out for a while after that. Having Crohn S, I can tell you that there is nothing quite like the smell of a GI bleed. Your gut digests the blood and it is foul. I can tell what my guts are doing by the smell of my farts. Wouldn't he call an ambulance for it though? All this, or the smell that the bloody mucus produces. I have also had food go through me so quickly that it smelled the same way coming out as it did going in. Recognizable pieces of romaine in the toilet, anyone? I work EMT in St. Petersburg in Russia. A fairly regular occurrence for me is very young men, usually teenagers or university age men who have inserted objects up their rectum and cannot retrieve them. Typically carrots, small pumpkins, but sometimes also torches, door knobs or acorns. When you buy an anal toy from adult shop, the toy usually has flanges on one end that prevents the object from getting pulled in beyond the sphincter and disappearing into the rectum where it cannot be reached by fingers. This is a very traumatic and also embarrassing emergency for the young men, and it is also a very humiliating way to come out of the closet as gay if they are still living with the parents. I once heard an emergency room nurse call into a radio show and said you wouldn't believe how many people show up with something stuck in their rectum and they all claimed they were naked and fell on it. Read a book by a doctor who talked about this. He said one patient almost had him convinced the TV remote had gotten there by accident until doc took it out and there was a condom on it. Called to a woman's house at 11 PM because her feet and ankles hurt unbearably because she had been walking in high heels all day. Said she couldn't walk from the bedroom to the kitchen to make food, but she had walked past the kitchen to the front door to let us in. She lived 4 blocks from the hospital and confirmed that the car in the driveway was hers. Nevertheless, she demanded ambulance transport and got it. We definitely documented that we could find no medical necessity for the transport and were doing it at patient's request. People can be hilarious. I work in a UK emergency department and currently we're having snow and ice. Lots of elderly falls and road traffic accidents. Ambulances are busy. A woman was incandescent with rage that she'd slipped and hurt her ankle on a park, but the ambulance took so long to get to her that she has to walk to her car then drive herself in. Mate, if you can do that, ambulances are not for you. Didn't he persuade her? Needed to glaze over to smile, not discharge with sprain advice. This is a story from when I was still working 911 M's in DeKalb County Gap. We got called out to a disorderly call. Police had found the man walking with no shoelaces. That's it. That was the reason we were given. I stopped my partner and the officers arguing long enough to get them both out of the ambulance so I could try to communicate with the man. He was an immigrant to the US who did not speak much English. I think hello, yes, no, and please were the only words he knew, with some very obvious hand gestures and a little help from an online translator. I was able to get his identification and a phone number for a relative who spoke some English. It turns out that he was trying to go visit his sister who lived 2 counties and about 33 miles away. He didn't have a car or way of getting to them other than walking. He had been born in Taiwan and was used to walking miles and miles just to get to and from town for groceries. So this walk was nothing big for him. The bigoted, close-minded police had already stopped him twice and wanted us to transport him into another county, which is illegal without his permission, so he wouldn't be their problem again. The man's sister had collapsed, and they had held him in the drunk tank twice, and at a hospital for psych eval once. The family didn't know what had happened because the police had refused to permit him a phone call since he couldn't speak enough English to ask for one. I shared my lunch with him because of course he hadn't been fed while being detained. By this point, the sergeant in charge had pulled up and was trying to throw his weight around on my partner. I got out to let them know that we were going to let him go. The sergeant rounded on me and tried throwing his weight on me too. I am a U.S. Navy war vet. Drill sergeant mode activated. He was not in my chain of command, but I let him know that I was going to be talking to his commanding officer personally. He got in his car, left, and I filed a complaint on him, his officer, and the department for harassing a legal immigrant unlawfully. He was let go, and I offered to call a cab to take him. He smiled and said no. then bowed respectfully to me and walked towards his sister's home. I have never been able to find out if he made it or not, but I really hope he did. I salute you for standing up for the weak, regardless of their background or prejudice. Mad respect. Not trying to nitpick here. Just give props where they read you. That man was walking 33 miles to visit his island sister. That man is as strong as they come. The police were weak in this case, using their position and bigotry to duck with a man who cannot even explain his situation. I can see where you come from, but I did not mean weak as in physically weak, nor I meant to be demeaning. Instead, I was talking in regards to the power imbalance that was being forced upon the man. I respect the endurance of the dude, but he was on a powerless situation where the police had all the power above him, even if it was unlawful. Just because the man couldn't even communicate in the same language and his race, the police was morally weak, but they got the power in the situation until Op came and did what was right, be a decent person. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.